It is often said that one should cherish the gift of life. And I think this refers to wearing this physical body. I want to ask whether there's, well, we know that this level of life is certainly not the best place to be. So what I want to ask is there no other way for Utons to get the real guidance and real education without having to wear the physical body?
Of course. So now that you asked the question,
yes,
you can decide to figure it out. It's up to you. So again, anything that you're asking, it's always available. Everything's available. There's always another way to do it, you see? But at the same time, while you're here, what I see is it's not about the physical body so much. It's relating to those that have trapped themselves in the physical body. That becomes it. Because again, if we're going to go through various levels, this is solid matter. This is the lowest there is. And yes, if you're in the astral worlds or causal or wherever you are in life, you always can become more aware. That's really the reality of it. But as long as you're here, you've chosen to come here. You've chosen to go through this. And eventually the boys chose you to see if you'll step up and do something. That's a choice that you make. You decide how to figure it out. But yes, it can be done anywhere. And this is where lots of times people, again, they create an idea thinking that, I met one person that years ago when I was in the corporation, and he was in the corporation for a while. And then he realized that, it was his own realization that, there's no hurry for me to get through this. I can do it, I can do it in future lifetimes or whatever. Yeah, you can. You can do whatever you want. But like the new presentation right now, what was before it, what will come after it, and like Rebazar told Paul, when Paul was procrastinating about this too, because as we come through this veil, even though we plan to come in here, once we get here, we're rather confused, and we have to deal with the outside world, and we forget why we came here, and it's easy to do. We become confused. And so Rebazar told Paul, well, you can do it now, or you can do it later, but there's no guarantee that you'll see it, you see? So what you're seeing right now, there's no guarantee that you'll see it later, because that's how it is. This is a speck of dust that you're viewing right now, and it's endless, and there's no guarantee. So you may wander around for untold lifetimes, just trying to find that position and something to relate to, because again, I decided to create this. Nobody else has. And so the corporation was taken over by the reptilians. And so basically almost everything has on this planet. But I decided to do this, and guess what? If I didn't, where would it be? I went through a lot to decide this. And so again, and I went through a lot to figure it out too. And so it's interesting, all the aspects. But yes, you can do it anywhere. And this is where, again, most people, if they don't grasp it right now, for me, I've learned that it's right now. I do it right now. If I have an idea that makes sense, I do it right now. And fortunately, Ava and Kelsey and a few others are here. And so we get these things going. And boy, do I load them up. And they're wonderful. And Claudia and I, she's worn out most of the time too. And that's how it is. It's just like a work a day, as you work your 5 or 6 days a week, it's like that. But here you're wearing yourself out for something that makes sense. And so again, because, I see it to where it doesn't matter how much I produce, it doesn't make a dent. It really doesn't in this aspect because of how awesome and endless life is. It doesn't make a dent, but yet at least it's something, and it's here. So that's where I try to cover as many bases as I can. This is my whole focus, because really there is nothing else. There is no life here. It only appears that there is, but I'm not saying to negate this. No, that's not it. Again, what is more important? And so, I could give many examples, but I'm not going to, everybody can figure it out for themselves. But this is what I see. I'm not saying I'm right, but it only makes sense that the real universe is compared to all of creation, where you're not restricted and you're completely aware. That makes a lot more sense than just getting to a better place in creation to where you think that you're going to be okay. Well, you still have to deal with cause and effect through all of creation. So you can go to the heavens of man, you can go into the astral and the mental worlds, and it's awesome there. Way more than here. It's a wonderful place. But guess what? For the most part, that's where it's called Maya, the illusion of appearance, which is fine. We have it here too, and all of it is. But it's necessary. But at the same time, you're going to be less motivated to recognize your real self. That's why you came here. You came here, you might say, to be beaten up. You've chosen that. Again, just like Chris. He wants to be the soldier. He could walk around it, and be his own soldier. He could be a mercenary or whatever. He could do whatever he wants. But he chose to go through the system. He chose to go through the boot camp and all the hell that it entailed for him to eventually recognize that position for himself and whatever he went through from there. Again, you and everyone here has chosen to come here, and now you're slowly waking up to that recognition, but you always have choice as to how you'll do it. And so, yes, you can do it anywhere, but you came here because this is the most difficult. And even you, Charles, you come from Africa, and Africa was hard, but then you go to China to teach the Chinese English. Well, that's a heck of a challenge. How many people will do that? And so, yes, you can do it anywhere, but what makes sense? You want to postpone it? You want to postpone your own recognition? Well, you can do that for as long as you want and create as many ideas, or you can, grab the reins and decide to do it right now, every moment, along with what you're doing. And yeah, that's the biggest challenge. And so I wanted to write, and and led up to when 2001, that position. And at that time, I knew, okay, it wasn't no longer an idea or a dream. It's just I had to sit down and write. I knew I had to, because this was the first part of creating all this. And I went through a lot. And I even wrote 2 books that I didn't like, and I didn't use them, and I had to rewrite them. And so when I went through my difficulties, I wrote better. I wrote better and better. So we've come here to go through this. And there's a lot of things I don't like about the world and what I'm going through. But at the same time, I accept it. And just within my little room here, and Kelsey's here and Val, and they see it too, we just do what we can. But we're doing it. And it's wonderful. I see that many people take for granted. Look at the images that Ava creates. They're awesome. There's nothing like them. And I'm so appreciative that Ava, we planned this to come together and do this. And this is going on 5 years now. And we have created thousands of images, thousands upon thousands Ava has. And to where her body aches and whatever, but she keeps doing it. Ava's so wonderful. I've created over 1,000 groups on Facebook, over 400 titles on Lulu, etc. I've said this many times, and on articles, and we're into everything. And Kelsey's creating all kinds of websites. She's created, we'll probably have 100 websites. It's just to get it out there in every which way we can, because this world is starving for something real. They're so obsessed with chasing phenomena. And they don't know what is what, and all the sound good things from the politicians and the movie stars, and all deceiving them. Basically, everything is all sound good stuff. And where does it really lead? It does not lead to recognizing their real awareness. But with the knowledge that I'm sharing here, through the process and what they've known, now they can use the experiences that they've had to better recognize their real awareness, and have a better opportunity to see through the restrictions that they agree to in this world. It's their choice, though. You got to make the choice. It ain't going to be done for you. I can't do it. All I can do is present it. The boys, they can demonstrate. The guidance is there, but you got to listen. You got to pay attention. You got to get past your own arrogance. You decide. I've seen it The arrogance doesn't work. People that hold on to their arrogance, like the Queen and others that I've known, they all fail. And now they're in a quandary. They don't even know what to do with themselves. And all these lifetimes have led up to what? Being more confused? Well, again, just take the time, read the books, do the New You sessions, get some real experience, use your intuition, and eventually your insight, and into recognizing your real awareness. It all makes sense. But I would suggest, because life is an isness, it's not about where you're at. Eventually, you're going to wake up completely to where you'll see that it all is now. It's not a matter of the places you go. But yeah, sometimes you're going to move from one house to another, and it's a better physical situation, so you can do, etc. And I did that too. I left a happy home. Actually, I left 3 really good situations that were at their peak. That most people were, they actually have questioned me. It's like, why would you leave that? It's like, well, because I have to. And it's not about my comfort zone in the physical. It's about what I'm here to do. And so if I hadn't done that, well, then probably none of you would be here and have this opportunity, because I wouldn't have been motivated to do what I'm doing for everything that I've went through. But fortunately, I did it. I recognized it the best that I could. And many times the boys hammered me. It's like, here, pay attention to this, fix this over here, do this over there. Again, it's just a whole lot, just like building a house and building a city. And so, the few of us that are here, well, this is just great, because the individuals that come to this and recognize this in the smallest bit, it's exceptional. And so, again, I'll say it many times, everything in creation is fine. All of it's fine. It's how you see it and how you deal with it. But I would suggest, again, learn to recognize your real purpose, the isness that life is, and everything else it's like light shining on creation. You're going to see it for what it is. And yeah, we have fun with the sound good stories, but learn to recognize and see through the stories and get on with the real adventure, and that is standing real with the boys. And again, they are the best demonstration of the whole of life, and freeing yourself from all this, and at the same time taking part and seeing if you can rescue others from this dilemma also, because I see it from their viewpoint. And that is that I would sure like someone there, and fortunately the boys are there, and this is where the gratitude comes in. I'm very grateful for what Paul did and Rebazar, etc., to where coming into this life and better recognizing the isness life is. So I'm very grateful for that. And so that's what I work off of too, to continually do this for everyone, because it's about all of us. It really is. But at the same time, I don't decide for others. That's very, very real, because each person must decide. The free will is very precious. We cannot interfere with that, but we can demonstrate things to see if people will decide to wake up and make better choices. Yeah, that's the challenge. Yeah, so Charles, you can do it anywhere, but the isness life is, which is so cool, you don't have to move from your spot. Like Lacy said, you don't have to move from your room. You can do it all here and now. And so, but you decide. You are the decider. Yes, thank you for asking.
The real you, the real awareness, which is the real awareness, can be said to be self-subsisting. And it is the all that is in life, even while it lives in the lower levels of life. But I see the real you. It's like a beggar. So how can one reconcile the fact that the glory of the universes is a beggar sitting on a bag of gold? How can we reconcile this? So I would like Duane to shed some light on this.
Well, again, we're basically going off of old stories and old references, like the stories in the Bible, and those are cute stories, and we have fun with them. And so again, as we go along here, yes, we have fun with, I always suggest have fun with what you're doing. It only makes sense. Well, why make it, boring and drudgerous like most 9-to-5 jobs are? I've always basically worked for myself, but I've decided that, and it's the harder way to do it when you're self-employed as a general contractor for 40 years. And I like to build things, and it's hard work, very, very hard work. And most people can't do it. They'll just get their education and go to their 9-to-5 job and sit in their cubicle, whatever it is. This is the idea today. And so, again, when you talk about glory and sitting on a bag, we're like beggars sitting on a bag of gold and whatever. These are old analogies, is all they are. And the best part is you can skip all that, but at the same time you can have fun with it, especially if you're a story writer. I will be writing more things in the future, more adventure novels, but not right now. I'm really focused on the purpose of presenting what I am to the public. That's really my focus, and so I don't want to take time doing these other things, but as things get going and self-perpetuating, I will get back into that because there is a lot more to be told, and people like these things, and this creates a relationship. And at the same time, again, Charles, those are, old cliches, and they're workable, but for what we're doing now, they don't really work. And so these are actually ideas, just like the sayings of Jesus, the teachings of Jesus, and the wisdom of the ancients and all this. That's Harry on stage, okay, giving his ancient wisdom. And this is where I see it to where people are really kept to be dumbed down by these ideas, simply because that's all they are. They're just ideas. Unless a real recognition is there. And do they point to the olives? No, he's always pointing to himself or some god, etc. And it all sounds good, etc. Just like the Vatican and the politicians and whatever. And what do the politicians do? They point to the old presidents that have come and gone that have deceived others for that time. Oh, that all sounds good. And the religions, they point to the gods, which is the Kalam god. Really, it really is. The reptilians rule, you might say, creation. They really do. And they deceive others. It's deceptive, in this simulator of things. So those old cliche ideas really refer to so much of this stuff that's been created by the deceptors. So it's poetic, but it also emotionally traps people. It really does. So again, unless it's pointed to the true reality, and that's a huge definition. And again, this is where people become a little confused by what I'm presenting. But the words and phrases that I create do that. And they're not old cliches, but I may use one of these old cliches from time to time as simply as a reference and not a reality. And this is where, again, many of these little stories and cliches, just like, the teachings of Jesus, and Jesus said this and love the little children and all this. And well, of course we do. But at the same time, that becomes a way of life to where that's all that people see. And they just see the personal self only. They don't see the bigger picture. And once you recognize your real awareness, because it can be self-sufficient, can support everything with the personal self. But if you try to make the personal self support everything, that's the struggle. That's the struggle people are having. And eventually it can look good for a while. Well, you can do good. The Trumps, the Buffetts, and, the Obamas and all these people that think they rule the world. Yeah, they look good for a while. And this is why people strive for it, because they are creating a demonstration. But where does it really end up? And life will show you it's going to end up nowhere. They're going to be worse off until they recognize what's going on, because they've made their choices. And basically, they've based their life on deception, purposely planned deception, even though they've made it look good to the audience. And they make up these little cliches and stories that sound good too. And where does it all go to? So again, those are ideas, Charles, and they're cute ideas. But guess what? It's not going to support you realistically. The little self cannot support the real awareness. The little self is a vehicle like your car. You got a car and you can be obsessed with it. And a lot of people are obsessed with their car. Their car is everything to them. It's an obsession, just like the physical body is an obsession. But guess what? Your car can't work your 9-to-5 job. It can't. It can take you to the grocery store, but it can't do the shopping. You see, it's limited, and the personal self is limited too. But people like to think that they're unlimited, and that these little stories and inspiration and all that will keep them going. Well, it will for a while, until you're too old to even consider any adventure anymore in your life, where you're just like, okay, I'm exhausted. I just want to get out of here, and then you're done, and then you start again. So, I see these things for what they are. Words are a reference, not a reality. What I'm saying is a reference. It's not the living reality. So when the Christians hold up their Bible and say, this is the word, the living word, it's not so. And even Jesus referenced the sound, light, reality, which is the all-aliveness, but really he was talking about the reflective part in creation, not the true reality, because he didn't know. And he did good, and they did good copying whatever he said, if he said it, or they made it up. It doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter what took place then. It's only now. Life is always new now, and when you recognize this, it's even better than anything that you can ever consider. So, yes, these little cliches and these little cute stories can lead to something, or they don't. They just blow in the wind, and when you're out there crawling across the desert looking for water, all these cute stories, are they going to mean anything then? No, then not really. You can try and pump yourself up so you can crawl a little further. But realistically, when you recognize your real awareness, if you got to crawl across the desert, you know what? You're okay, because you see that you will survive past what is going on here in the physical. So again, you decide. Well, I would say that, as you have appeared here for years on, the Skypes and what we've talked about, and especially the Asian ones that have stopped for a while, but they will continue again, are very prime sources of a lot of information that have prompted me to share with everybody so they can better understand what's going on. And getting through the literal mind and what people personally consider from what I'm saying, it's better, you might say not to consider any of it, but then just to overview it. And, the missing factor here is the isness. This is what people are searching for, and this is why there's confusion in the world, and people jump to conclusions and assume things, you might say, that really are not. And so, but once you have this isness and you start to recognize it, then you start to see how everything fits. And it does, but you have to do that. You have to recognize that more than just thinking that, oh, I know what it is. And some people will say, well, when Duane says the all is, he's just talking about, oh, that's just another God. No, it's not. Is the Son a God? It's not a God. But it demonstrates a reality that's more so than your literal senses can consider. So when you learn to compare the two, all of a sudden a recognition and an insight like never before appears, but you must also decide how it is to be according to how you see. You see? So this is how life is. It's just an endlessness of, it's the easiest way to say it is recognition and how you recognize it. And again, the boys recognize it, the real guys recognize it, and you decide if you can recognize it with them and stand real and recognize them as they recognize you. Wow, that's a lot.